So today we welcome our independent party candidate, John Denney. John, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Shall we, let's applaud him.
Yeah.
Republican candidate, Tom Emmer. Tom, thanks for being here. And DFL candidate, Joe Perske. Joe, thank you. The format for this debate and forum will be as follows. I will ask questions of our candidates regarding federal issues of greatest concern to our chamber and Rotary Club members, as well as Central Minnesota's business community. And candidates will be allowed up to 2 minutes to address each question. At the moderator's discretion, candidates will be allowed rebuttal time of 1 minute to respond to their opponent, particularly if their names or positions are addressed in responses. And that way somebody can't just say something thinking they're going to be the last word. I encourage each of you to be clear and concise in your answers so we can cover as much ground as possible in your hour. A beeper will sound at the end of your time, indicating you should complete your sentence and stop. And our timekeeper today is Chamber Vice President Gail Ivers. Gail is right here front and center. And she'll be signaling you when you have 30 seconds remaining, and then when your time has expired, and the little beeper will go off too, so you'll have both a visual and a sound. So are you ready to get started? Okay. All right, I will mention too that these questions are not distributed in advance. Topics are discussed, and they are pretty tightly held. I did get some questions from within the Rotary Club and Chamber that I have included from individual members. So we'll start with you, John. St. Cloud is the largest city in the 6th district and the 8th largest city in the state of Minnesota. What do you see as St. Cloud's greatest challenges and opportunities in the next 2 years? And what's the first piece of legislation that you'd offer as a freshman congressman?
Well, that seems like two questions.
It is.
First off, I think, particularly with the St. Cloud area, transportation dollars are going to be big. That's going to be a big factor in bringing home those federal transportation dollars. And if you look online on johndenneyforcongress.com, you'll see I have a plan to do just that. One of my big planks is bringing money back to Minnesota. I think that when you look at we haven't been able to pass a long-term transportation funding bill. I think we put a little patch on it till May of 2015. We haven't been able to put that forth, and a lot of that is because of partisanship. There is no real working across the aisle in Congress right now. I think we're seeing that, and because of that, we're not able to get together on a deal so that state and local governments can adequately structure their funding going forward, because they just need predictability in their funding stream, and that's really what we're looking for. So as the only independent in the House, I would immediately become a true power broker of the center and immediately be able to put Minnesotans and St. Cloud first in line for every congressional decision, and very well able to bring those federal dollars home.
Great. Legislation?
Oh, legislation. Okay, this is good. So, my big thing, getting money out of Congress. The first thing that I would propose is a bill that we're drafting called Phase 2. Phase 2 eliminates 501c4 status for political organizations, because this is how you get funding into political campaigns that is not disclosed. We don't have to disclose who all the people who are funding these things are currently the way it's set up. So by eliminating that, you take care of all the dark money that's coming into politics right now when you see that we don't know who's funding these campaigns in a lot of cases. It could be coming from Saudi Arabia. It could be a national security issue if you look at it in that light. So if you look on johndenneyforcongress.com, like I said, you'll see a perfectly well laid out plan. Unlike my opponents, who don't lay out much of a plan online, you'll see that I have a plan to do just that.
Thank you. Tom Emmer, what do you see, and what legislation would you champion?
The first thing is, St. Cloud, as you noted, is the largest city within the district. I think Blaine is close behind, but St. Cloud is the largest, 8th largest, I think you pointed out, in the state. It's also important to note that it's right in the center of the state. It's right, when it comes to commerce, this is the hub, actually, of the state. I know the folks down in St. Paul and Minneapolis want to claim it's them, But quite frankly, everything has to go through St. Cloud, whether it's coming from Chicago and headed up towards North Dakota and beyond, or coming back. It's got to come through St. Cloud. So first and foremost, the challenges are, we can talk about challenges on business growth. You've got to have pro-growth policies at a federal level and a state level. That means you got to have less burdens on those folks that are growing businesses in this area. And it comes back to what John was talking about. The challenges that we see are going to be transportation challenges. It's people, product, making sure that we can get things through this part of the state and onto other parts of the country. And I think when you look at it, you lower taxes, you streamline regulations, you let people keep more of their own money so that they can innovate and create new opportunities, which, by the way, is one of the secrets of St. Cloud. It's got one of the greatest business communities in this state. And you've got to allow it to not only survive, but to thrive and to continue to grow. And then it's going to be the transportation infrastructure around it. I believe you focus on roads and bridges and you work from there. As far as legislation, I love people who believe that they're going to go to a body of 535. And the first bill I'm going to offer is that everybody here is going to succeed. That's not the way it works. If I am your representative in Congress, the first thing I'm going to do is start building relationships with people that are there so that I can actually be effective in the office. Those are people on both sides of the aisle. Start to get to know them, let them get to know me, and build that office so that when you call and you need something done, we can actually be of service to you.
Thank you. And Joe Perske, our challenges and opportunities and your first legislation.
I'll tell you what, first of all, I want to thank you for having this forum, get a chance to contrast myself with the other candidates. Also, I see family and friends out here and colleagues, and it's encouraging to see you. Well, many of you folks know that I've already been facing the challenges that we've had here in the area, working as mayor and working on the area planning organization, working the greater St. Cloud development community. We brought our community through one great challenge up in Sartell with the explosion and fire in that mill, and looking at what we would do as far as finding locations for those workers, retraining for those workers, also what to bring back into that. Edmonton Trailer coming in there, getting some jobs for us, and now we look at the future of that site for redevelopment, and we want to make sure that we're looking at jobs throughout the entire district. Now, these communities overlap, and one thing that I'm very pleased to see is the way we work together as mayors across the communities, council members, township members, again with that APO board, that we actually can solve these issues and come to a consensus about how we're going to face these challenges in regards to transportation. And I've been a transportation advocate for you already in Washington and in St. Paul, you know, working on the I-94 corridor, which we need to get up here to St. Cloud. Looking visionary for North Star corridor, get North Star Rail up here to St. Cloud. One item that Mr. Emmer had voted against and still consistently is opposed to, getting the airport to work, St. Cloud Airport. We want that to work. We want that to prosper. As far as legislation, we want to make sure we're getting our tax dollars for transportation out of Washington. And something we haven't seen, that good representation. Again, we need to have an advocate that's going to go there and want to get those things to happen here in St. Cloud, happen here in Minnesota like we saw with Jim Oberstar. And I would like to be that transportation champion for you.
Thank you. Any first legislation you'd like to offer?
First legislation,
Transportation.
Transportation. Let's get some things moving here. We got some wonderful projects we'd like to see happening around St. Cloud. West Metro Corridor continued as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the second question, Tom, you'll start with this. We'll move to Joe and then back to John Denney. What's your assessment of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act and its impact on consumers and businesses to date? And what would you do as a congressman to make the act better?
Right now, the Affordable Care Act, which most people commonly refer to as Obamacare, it's not working. And I think anybody who looks at it should understand that when you've got the executive pushing out deadlines, I think there have been 21 extensions by the executive branch on deadlines, including the employer mandate, which was originally 2014, I believe, then it was 2015. Now it's been extended out to 2016. And why? Because it can't work. They passed something that they didn't understand what it was when they passed it. They're now trying to actually make it work while it exists. They were promulgating rules to fill out the law, and I don't believe it's going to work. And the impact so far on consumers and businesses, while it's been serious. It's not what it's going to be. They're talking about, in some places, next year for some small employers, anywhere from 35 to 65% increases in premiums. This is going to be significant for families and for businesses alike all across this state and this country. As a Republican, an endorsed Republican, by the way, I've also been endorsed by the U.S. Chamber. I've been endorsed by NFIB, Farm Bureau, and today the Minnesota Fraternal Order of Minnesota Police. As a Republican candidate, I think it's up to us to be offering our solutions. That's allowing people more options to purchase coverage across state lines. It's allowing small businesses more pooling options so they can get the same type of coverage that large businesses get. It's about allowing individuals to expand their health savings account options. It's about tying the coverage to the individual instead of employer, and on and on. We need to be ready with our solutions for families and small businesses when this top-down, one-size-fits-all federal solution doesn't work.
Thank you. Joe Perske, comments on the Affordable Care Act.
We've been looking for decades to get a health care program in this country that will work for all Americans. And that's the question is, who do we want health care for? Do we want health care for all or some? Now we take a look at the Affordable Care Act, and what was it based on the premises? The president of that pre-existing conditions would not exclude somebody from health care, that your child could stay on your plan until they're 26. And then the 80-20 rule, that at least 80% of that money has to go back to patient care and not into profits, not into CEO salaries, not into money away from patient care. I think we came to the agreement that those are things we could all live with. And then we came back with which companies would allow to work within those parameters, and then give people options to purchase from those companies. But that didn't really happen so well. There were problems with it. There's no questions about it having problems. But it is working for millions of Americans. There are now millions of Americans that do have health care. In fact, I was going around the entire 6th District shaking hands, 35 parades, and my wife and I did 35 of those parades with me. The county's fairs, the festivals, talking to people and asking them what they felt about the Affordable Care Act. It's not all bad. Again, some people have insurance that never had insurance. Now, if you repeal this, what's going to happen to those folks? Again, they'll have no insurance, and we'll just go backwards again. We need to put the polarizing politics aside that is so embedded into so many issues in this country. There are issues we have here, and there's not Democratic or Republican solutions. There are answers there that are best for people, and we need to come up with a solution that's best for people. You can call it Affordable Care Act, you can call it Obamacare, you can call it Romney Care, but let's find a solution and work together so that we can have health care for all Americans in an affordable means. And if Mr. Emmer has a proposal that'll work, I welcome that proposal. Because again, it's about working for people and working what's right, not playing politics with this good issue that people want and people need.
Thank you. John Denney.
So, real quickly, back to the previous question, you'll notice that neither of my opponents mentioned a bill that they're going to propose when they get there. You know, he also reiterated a lot that he's the Republican-endorsed candidate. Now, I know an R or a D means something to us culturally, but is that really all you have to carry you for your plans when we get to Washington? I think Minnesota knows better than to send anyone into a job for which they have no plan. I have multiple plans and multiple bills laid out online that you can see that I plan to implement when I get there. Now, on this question, Joe stole my punchline there. Could be called Romney Care, because you do get a lot of the same thing from these two parties. The impact on consumers, well, particularly for the youth, and when I say youth, I mean 40 and under. This is going to be something that largely affects us. Let's call it what it is. It's a situation where the younger generation is largely going to be footing the bill for this. Now, the individual mandate, it violates my basic conception of liberty, in which it is requiring us to pay for something that we don't necessarily want. I find the mandate to be coercive over the states, where you have the federal government holding funds over the heads of states, saying that you need to cover your citizens for X amount, and if you do not do that, we are going to withhold these funds. That's a problem for me. Now, with that said, well, actually, let's talk also, because the question had impact on business. My uncle showed me the numbers for his plastics factory of what's about to happen when this thing hits small business. It's going to get ugly. And we need to get someone in there who can actually work across the aisle. Actually, not work across the aisle, because I stand in the middle of the aisle as the only independent. I don't have to reach across. I can just short arm it right here. Now, I do not advocate a repeal of the ACA because I think that we want to go forward. Now, I prefer market solutions, but this is law now, and it's time we work hard on what's already in place to try to make this work for small businesses before it blows up, because it's going to be bad here very soon.
Thank you. Now we'll go to a happier topic. Teasing. Joe, we'll start with you on this, and then we'll come back to John, and finally Tom will finish. This is on energy. And you see, everybody is laughing now. The EPA recently announced its plan to reduce carbon emissions from new and existing power plants. And the plan will cost consumers in states like Minnesota the most, because our power companies have already taken major steps and incurred major costs to reduce emissions and support renewable energy more so than other states. And yet the percentage you've got to improve is the same. So it's tougher for people who are already very good. Do you support regulating greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act in this way? And do you have any recommendations regarding how the EPA might be more fair and equitable to individual states?
No, I'll tell you what, I was displeased when I saw the way they brought this legislation out. Because I compare it to two people that are trying to lose weight, and they start out and they both make the best effort, but one loses 50 pounds and the other loses 10 pounds. Well, then you come back with the next parameter, say, we want you to lose another 20%. Well, the person that had already lost so much weight now is at a disadvantage. And that's what happened here. Minnesota did some things to actually do the best they could to reduce those carbons, to be more energy efficient and to be more productive. Now, when they come in with these percentages, all of a sudden, now we've got to take away even more from what we've already taken away. That wasn't fair. Also, I think it was the ability to generate or draw energy from North Dakota, which was not actually meeting the parameters, which they were leaner and meaner for the carbons in the air. That wasn't fair either. We have Minnesota companies that did the restrictions, were able to become more energy efficient, cleaner, and they were just penalized for doing that. Do we need to be cleaner? Should we be? Absolutely. We can do better, but we have to take time in which to do it. We're not just going to turn off the lights and shut the coal plants down. We've got to have a plan that using coal for a bridge, and have a plan that's going to eventually get us cleaner and cleaner through solar, through wind, through other means as well.
Thank you. John?
Now, I think the biggest thing we can do, this is going to sound odd, right? I'm telling you that free markets can help the environment in this situation. We do a lot of subsidizing of carbon fuels. We do a lot of subsidizing of big oil. And this, to me, is a problem. If you really allow for a free market, you'll see that renewables and energy forms that are cleaner are going to rise to the top a lot quicker if we just stop tampering in the free markets the way we've been doing. And the biggest cause of that, obviously, is money in Congress. You have lobbyists who come in, they lobby for these subsidies, and they get them. And this is the real elephant in the room of American politics that nobody talks about. Let's just imagine for a second, or let's all think about the last time someone lent you 20 bucks. And I'm sure you felt obligated to repay that 20 bucks. In fact, you were expected to repay that 20 bucks. Now, if we took that and multiplied it by 1,000, or better yet, let's just imagine someone comes running up to us right now and says, "Excuse me, sirs, I see that you're running for Congress and I want to see that you get elected. Now, I can't vote for you. I don't live in your district. In fact, I'm not even a person. I represent a political party or a union or a PAC or a corporation who wants a subsidy. Now, I actually can't vote at all, but nonetheless, here's 20 grand and I'll call you after the election." Now, if any of you saw us accept that money, would there be any doubt in your mind that we are obligated to repay that? This is the problem that no one talks about. And no one talks about it because the parties who are in charge right now, they enjoy this system. It's good for them. So getting money out of Congress is one of the biggest ways we can open up the energy industry to a true free market, let renewables come to the top because they will, just for efficiency purposes. That's what America's founded on, free markets, and that's what I believe in.
Thank you. And Tom Emmer.
Teresa, the question I thought was, would you support a tax on carbon emissions?
Regulating greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act.
Yeah, I think, first, the answer is no, I would not. And I want to go into it a little bit because you also brought the EPA into the picture and the rulemaking authority. And despite what I told you when you asked us the first question, what legislation that we might put forward if we were in office, I still believe that anybody who thinks they can get elected, go to Congress, and suddenly start moving legislation It takes relationships. It takes building those relationships. But I'll tell you the one that fits this question better than any other, and that is we have a problem in this state, not just this country, but both in this country and this state, where we have unelected bureaucracies that are in effect making the laws that you and I have to live under. The EPA is a classic example with this rule-making authority, and I believe that there should be some changes made. Maybe we do what I understand South Dakota does, which it has a legislative process for approving proposed rules so that the actual elected officials, the people that we hire to represent us, are making those decisions as opposed to the bureaucracies or the agencies of government. I think that needs to happen at a federal level. As far as energy in general, the government has to get out of the way. You want this to happen, we've got to have more free market, we've got to have more opportunities. A strong economy is based on abundant and efficient energy, inexpensive energy. You can see what's happening is just the gas prices are going down right now. And it should be clean coal, it should be petroleum, it should be natural gas, anything and everything. It's the key to our national security, it's the key to our private economy. You should be building the Keystone Pipeline, you should be building the Sandpiper Pipeline, et cetera. It's also a solution to our transportation woes if you start building these pipelines and getting these trains moving.
Thank you. We're back to starting with you, John, for this next question. Our members tell us that federal tax reform is one of the things that is needed most desperately at the federal level. So what are your 3 top priorities, if you have them, for federal tax reform, and what's your view on tax inversions?
Well, my number 1 priority in regards to tax reform is the implementation of a flat tax. Now, I'm not going to blow smoke and tell you it's going to be 999 like Herman Cain. It's going to be a lot closer to the 15 mark, I think. But I strongly am a proponent of a flat tax. And why is that? Because our current progressive tax system, which is actually quite regressive, because what you have is a situation where, let me go back to those lobbying again, you have people who are creating loopholes within the tax code that allow for a much smaller effective tax rate for those who can afford a really good accountant to go through and pick and choose and take what they want, and they will pay a lot smaller effective tax rate than a person working for a low-wage job. Now, the one way that we can actually solve this once and for all by implementing a flat tax would be to, once again, get money out of Congress so that we can actually put it through. Now, I have a plan to do just that. In my hands right now, I have a contract that was drafted for me by George W. Bush's former chief ethics counsel. It is the first of its kind, and it legally binds me to not accept the kind of bribery that I was just describing in the previous question. I won't accept this money, I won't accept these bribes, and I won't be overly influenced. Now, Tom and Joe, they can't sign this because their parties won't allow it. And this isn't because, like I said, this isn't because they're bad people. It's simply because their parties won't allow it. And you know, I can tell you, I've been on this trail for a while. Joe is a good guy. I can't take it away from him. And Tom, I tried to hate him. He's the lead dog, you know? But the truth of the matter is, he's just the kind of guy I'd like to have a beer with. But it doesn't matter. None of that matters at all, because so long as you have that R or that D next to your name, you are contributing to the disenfranchisement of the American people.
Thank you. Tom, your 3 priorities for federal tax reform and views on tax inversions.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. That's nice. Well, it's not every day that we get that in this wonderful world of electoral politics. I mean, everybody in this thing, it seems more and more, sorry to get off track, but I'm going to say it. It seems more and more what I find in our electoral process in this country, we have too many people who think they are running against people and things. You're running for something. You're presenting something. You're selling your vision of whatever it is, and you're letting the people who vote decide whether they agree with it or not, and whether you're the person that should be representing them and working for them. And I like that when we do that. On this issue, I think tax reform is probably the biggest issue that Congress will face outside of those external issues that we've all been reading about and watching happening in other parts of the world. tax reform will be one of the most, if not the most important issue for our economy in the next 3 years. Whether we can achieve something as grand as my colleague is talking about, that would be fantastic. But in the meantime, lower the taxes. You got to reduce the effective rate on everybody. This has been done before. Reduce taxes, reduce regulations, and guess what? Institute policies that create a strong U.S. dollar, all right? Stop printing money. You've got to actually answer the call today. We did this back in the 80s. Took a few years, but then our economy was set off on what has been described by some economists as the boom, the 25-year boom, the greatest period of wealth creation that the world has ever known. And we can do that again with some simple steps. In the meantime, the other part of it was tax reform and tax inversions. I wish somebody would start writing about the fact that because of the tax policies in this country, we have forced people that are running companies with fiduciary obligations to their shareholders to actually do things like do tax inversions, which maybe they would prefer not to, but the tax policies created by the elected representatives have given them no choice. We need to change that.
Thank you. And Joe Perske.
You know, it's always nice to hear some people say, I'd like to cut taxes, I want to reduce taxes. It plays music to a lot of ears, but it takes something else to actually take that scalpel and say, where are you going to make these cuts? And then you have to make those tough choices. So oftentimes we hear people playing that music, but they don't always have the scalpel in their hands to make those cuts. But we can work better inside our budget. We can work a leaner, meaner. We've done that in the city of Sartell when we came through this economic downturn. And some of you folks know the way I operate. I cut coupons, I change my own oil, I do my own auto repairs. I might even do my own dental work if my wife would let me. But I'll tell you what, we can be leaner and meaner within budgets, and we need to do that and take a look at that. Also taking a look at jobs, expanding this economy. When we have more jobs, we'll have more people at work, we'll have more tax dollars coming in. And also closing the loopholes. Those folks that aren't paying their fair share. Nobody really likes to pay taxes, but some people do pay their fair share and they're okay about it. But some people want to just find a ways to get around that. We need to close those loopholes. We need to take a look at subsidies. Subsidies for companies that really don't need those subsidies to run a business. We want to encourage business, but not just give it away. When it comes to inversion, we don't want companies leaving this country. We don't want them moving overseas. We applaud those companies that play by the rules, those companies that pay their workers well, those companies that have benefits for their workers, those companies that respect clean water, clean air, our natural resources. We want to make sure that those companies stay in here and play by the rules. It becomes unfair trade when we have them going overseas or we're buying products made in a country that doesn't respect workers and doesn't respect the environment.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to our next topic, and Tom, you'll address this one first. And this is regarding entitlements. So 4 years ago, before the 6th District debate, I explored the website usdebtclock.org. And I went back this year, and here's what's changed in those 4 years since 2010. Social Security liability went from 14.5 to almost $18 trillion, trillion with a T. Prescription drug liability went from 19 to $20 trillion, and Medicare liability went from 77 to $80 trillion. So total unfunded liabilities we don't have any money to pay, were almost $111 trillion in 2010 and have increased by $4 trillion in 4 years, $1 trillion a year. So the U.S. government entitlement programs are in jeopardy, yet few politicians show the fortitude or willingness to tackle the problem. I know when our D.C. contingent goes every year, we ask, what are you doing about unfunded entitlements? So how will you specifically address this issue if you are elected to Congress?
Well, that's perfect, Teresa. I will bring a magic wand with me, and I will just do whatever, and it will be so. This is the biggest challenge that our country, not just Congress, but our country has in the next 10 years, if not sooner. It's been a challenge, and there are other plans, and people have been vilified, and people have been skewered for suggesting different reforms to our entitlement system. But I think before we can get there, before we can actually develop the political will by creating relationships on both sides of the aisle, Before you can get there, you got to have a growing and robust private economy. It's very difficult for anyone right now to imagine stepping out on that cliff without seeing the business growth that we should be having in this country. Today, I believe we have as few a number able-bodied adults fully employed as we've had, I think somebody said recently, since the early 1970s. Maybe it was 1980, 79, 80, somewhere in there. That's got to change. You have to reduce the overall tax burden. And I know that some people like to say that, gosh, you know, we need to play this class warfare in this country and it's the fair share, et cetera. Yeah, everybody should be paying for the services we expect government to provide. But we should have an environment, an economic environment in this country that provides everybody an equal opportunity to participate and grow new ideas and new businesses. You start to create that type of an environment, you have an economy that's growing the way we have experienced it in this country, you'll solve a lot of these problems, and then you will have the political will to address these serious problems over the next few years.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes, obviously there are many challenges that we're facing, especially as all of us grow older, and what's going to happen to our future. That's, again, I respect Tom's answer, is getting this economy to grow. The more we have jobs, the more we have better paying jobs, the more this prosperity will go and the dollars will be there for the programs that we have for the elderly, for the less fortunate. But that's got to happen through education. We need to have a workforce that's going to be able to compete in world markets. We need people that are going to have the innovation, the entrepreneurship to grow this economy. And that comes with the investment into education. But who are we really as Americans? We're not going to turn our backs on those that are less fortunate. We're going to make sure that they do have that hand up. Not a handout, but a hand up, so that they can get a better education, so that they don't have to make the tough decisions between medication and groceries. And what about our veterans? We're not going to turn our backs on our veterans. We have issues with these entitlement programs, but we're not going to turn our back on those Americans that have supported us year after year and given their lives and given their opportunity to better themselves and to support us. We won't turn our backs on those folks.
John?
So the reason that politicians don't like to talk about entitlement reform is because the voting base is largely consisting of people who are near or close to the Social Security and Medicare age. Now, I'm a young guy, so let's be real. This burden is on me. These unfunded liabilities, that's on me. And so no one could be closer to this problem than a guy who's going to be dealing with it. Now, 111 trillion, did you say, in unfunded liabilities?
115 now.
Oof. Wow, that's impressive. Now, the best way for us to get a hold of this thing, to get those funds replenished, is to get this economy going for the younger generation. We can look at student loans, of which I've proposed a plan online, unlike my opponents. And once again, you know, we can talk about the fact that Social Security is, I mean, this is really a giant Ponzi scheme, and the jig is up. This thing is coming due, and we don't have any money to pay it. So what are we going to do? I think we should take the power away from the two parties that have been selling us down the river for the last 40 years. I know there's not a lot of people in my generation in this room right now, but I'm sure there's a lot of people with grandchildren and children who care and don't want to see the future of this country continually sold down the river. It's not conducive to getting these programs replenished. If you want Social Security to be replenished, if you want Medicare to be replenished, you've got to start letting young people get into the economy. What does that mean? Student loan debt, things like this. And so, am I running against something? Yes, I am. I'm running against something, a system that has sold us down the river for a very long time. But I'm not running just against something, Tom. As I've been pointing out, I have a plan. I have a lot of plans, and they're there for everyone to see. Now, specifically with entitlement reform, the one thing I can do right away, get onto the fraud. Get onto that. That's a big thing that we can do right away just to start to alleviate some of these little things. There's a lot of fraud, a lot of corruption that goes on with pulling the funds out that aren't well deserved. I want to make sure the people who've been putting in get what they're promised and not the people who are trying to extort the system.
Thank you. Thank you for observing this thought, too.
Thank you.
Okay, and now, next question, starting with Joe Perske. What do you consider to be the St. Cloud region's most significant transportation issues, and what do you see as the federal government's role in addressing them?
I think we talked about that earlier. And again, having been on the area planning organization for a good number of years as mayor and then on the council, you know, we prioritize what the issues are that we have. We have a list of things we'd like to see happen. Obviously, the I-94 corridor expansion is one of those, getting that third lane up here to St. Cloud. North Star Corridor. We've had that on the radar for quite some time. We actually had a chance to bring it up here for pennies on the dollar, having federal money available to do that, but it got voted down. And Mr. Emmer, I know you've been in opposition to North Star, and you probably still are. That's one thing that we need to have happen up here. What it would do, allow us to get down to the Vikings games, the Twins games, get down to the U of M hospital, get down to the airport, get our people down there to actually to have jobs down in the metro. But coming back the other way, be able to have people come up here and be productive in St. Cloud, get the St. Cloud State students up here, get up to the St. Cloud Airport. Believe it or not, those students might even get a chance to sleep or read on the train as well, instead of driving crazy like they are. Replacement of the parking that's necessary when we have all these roads filled with cars and these parking lots filled and overcrowded. We've worked together as an APO to find out, again, like the West Metro Corridor, to bring transportation through the city.
Thank you. John?
So you may not know that when Michele Bachmann was serving this district, we ended up dead last as far as the district goes in transportation dollars at the federal level. So we're not getting those dollars that we need in a state where we have very, very severe weather conditions. I mean, obviously, all of us have driven around here, just the most treacherous in the country, really. And so I do believe that we can start to scoop a lot more of those federal dollars to a state that actually needs it. Now, when we get this money, it's important that we look at roads and bridges. Roads and bridges are what's going to matter. We can take a look at this green line. This is comical at best. It stops at stoplights. It stops at stoplights. Well, why not drive a car? It seems quite ridiculous to me to put in something like this that is actually not improved congestion at all. And it's actually probably more congested. Trucks can't make a turn down on University there to get into where they need to go to unload their goods. So the focus should be on roads and bridges. And the focus should also be on getting to Congress and getting these things done. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to be able to go there and, you know, wave a wand. Maybe I'll borrow Tom's wand. But the point is, I won't be able to wave a wand to get this done. But as the only independent in United States House, which should be astonishing, by the way, we do not have a single independent in the House. That's a problem. Now, as the only one there, I will be in a better position to be elevated in importance and a true power broker of the center, as I was saying, to get these things done.
Thank you. Tom?
You asked about priorities first. Obviously, the I-94 corridor, adding lanes in both directions. It was a nice start that they started to expand down by Albertville and Rogers, but it's got to come all the way to St. Cloud. And it's got to do it a lot sooner than within or beyond the next 20 years. I think it's not fair to suggest that this area was dead last because the representative in Congress, frankly, Congress abdicated its responsibility a few years ago to dedicate specific funds to certain transportation projects. They likened a road and a bridge, in my opinion, to a bike trail and a hockey rink, and that's not right. I think when you look at what's been happening, and I don't know that my colleagues know this, is what we've been getting is block grants essentially from Washington to St. Paul, and then they figure out where the money's going to go. I believe the future is going to require that we keep more of our dollars at home. As I understand it, about every dollar that we send as a state to Washington, we get back roughly 73 cents. That's not a very good deal. And if we keep more of our dollars here, we let the local authorities address the projects of most need, I think it'll work better. But in the meantime, it's about the Highway Trust Fund. The Highway Trust Fund has been robbed for years. It was designed as a revenue stream to build, repair, and maintain highways and bridges across this country. It's been used for all kinds of other projects, and it's got to go back to funding roads and bridges. Transit may be important, but then those that be and want those projects need to find other sources of revenue for them. In the meantime, the priorities, and we should set priorities, should be about roads and bridges.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to mix it up a little bit and start this next round with Joe, and then we'll come back this way and work this rotation just a little bit.
Start?
Yes, but
Okay.
we're gonna start with you and come back this way now, so that we're reversing who you answer behind.
Okay.
Got it?
Standard S draft
Okay.
format, Joe.
Ask around.
Don't you play fantasy football?
Okay,
All right.
that's where I learned how to do it.
Okay.
What was that?
Just talking about Andrew Luck.
He's
talking
at
about my
fantasy
Okay.
football. All
All
right.
right. Oh.
And I can
All right.
guarantee you, I am the
Joe, are
strongest
you okay
fantasy football
starting?
Bring
player.
it. Bring it on.
All right.
Bring it on.
All right. What are your current views on immigration and what needs to be done to improve our current system?
Yeah, immigration. You know, that's an issue that we seem not to be able to get our hands around. It's a topic that we'd like to address, but nobody seems to really want to actually bring it out and all the issues on the table. We're the greatest military nation in the world, yet we don't have secure borders. I find that difficult to believe. I think that we owe it to the American public that we have secure borders, that we know who's coming in and we have control of those borders. But yet that doesn't happen. Why doesn't it happen? Okay, we have millions of undocumented folks in this, immigrants in this country. How did they get there? How did they get here? And what are they doing? We don't have a policy that we actually know what's going on. And both parties are to blame about this. We need to have open and honest dialogue about this issue. And that's got to happen. We got to, again, take that polarizing ping pong ball and not necessarily hit it back and forth and blame each other, but focus on the issue and find resolutions to this issue. Now, as far as all those children that are coming from Latin America, dealing with them, we need a process that works for them. The present process is not working, where it takes over a year sometimes to have these children processed. Well, they get into families, they get into homes. And then all of a sudden you're breaking up their family or taking them out of school and sending them back. No, we need a process that works, and we need to start addressing it. But right now, again, it's not a hot topic. We don't hear it on the news right now, but yet the problem is there. So we need to bring it out in the open. And we need to have strict guidelines and responsibilities and rules about how this is going to work, so that everybody understands what we're doing with this issue.
Thank you, Joe. Tom?
Well, you don't hear a lot about immigration right now because I think more people, especially the public health folks and the policymakers, are worried about the Ebola scare. I think that's the big issue. But when it comes to immigration in the future, first off, what a great country. The reason that we have an immigration problem is because people want to be in America, because this is where the opportunities are. We want that to continue, but in the meantime, you've got to secure the borders. You've got to enforce the laws that we already have on the books. You've got to help local law enforcement do the job that they have to do. You have to strengthen the E-Verify system or something similar for employers, so that employers know who it is they're hiring. And at the end of the day, I think what a lot of people want to stay away from, and I'll say it out loud, amnesty is not an option. We did this once before. Amnesty simply reinforces what is already broken with the system. If you want to be a citizen of this great country, fantastic. We want you. Get at the end of the line, follow the process. If you think the laws are overly burdensome or they somehow provide obstacles, unreasonable obstacles, then we need to look at those laws constantly and reform them. But again, if we're going to be a country that's based on the rule of law, then we need to honor the rule of law.
Thank you. And John Denney?
So I'm an independent. This is where I get to say the things that nobody else will say, right? The unfortunate reality is that the economy in America is down. We have slid in the world rankings in every major category hard for the last 30, 40 years. And so it's not necessarily our economy that people are rushing across the border to get to. What they're doing is they're largely fleeing violent situations in their countries that are perpetrated upon them by drug cartels. So where most people, and you'll hear the regular talking points, hey, let's build a fence. Let's build a $49 billion fence. I don't know about anybody out here, but I was hopping fences when I was 6 years old. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to get around a fence, and it shouldn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that's a horrible idea. So if you look online, you'll see I have a plan to secure America now. This includes securing the border. It's 4 different things. First, we have to reform drug policy. Right now, in the Middle East, we are bombing oil refineries. Why are we doing that? Because we're trying to take out ISIS's revenue stream. Drug cartels south of the border get 70% of their revenue from the sale of marijuana alone in this country. We need to look at reforming drug policy so that drug cartels are not terrorizing Honduras and these other Central American countries, sending human traffickers. We're bringing these people across. That's a problem. Second, enticement programs. Tom talked about it a little bit. We have to stop with the enticement programs and things like the Bush's Human Trafficking Victims Act, which flew through the legislature, but it was very manipulatable substance. That's a problem. So I'd like to see that taken care of. Also, streamlining green card access. That's big for small business, and just more efficiently processing these citizenship requests, obviously, is one thing that we can do to deal with the children and things of this nature who do come across in an unfortunate situation.
Thank you. And John, we'll start with you now on this next one, and then we're coming back to you, Joe, and working our way back this way. So do you support or oppose building the Keystone XL pipeline? And what impacts do you foresee this decision will have on future U.S. energy supply?
I support the Keystone pipeline, so long as we can do it environmentally safe. Now, as a person who's planning for the next 40 years of this country, as opposed to just the next 2 years until my next election, I'm going to look at things that are going to help us going forward into the future. So a pipeline, this is actually, believe it or not, one of the more environmentally sound ways to move oil. So one thing I would like to see is businesses putting up the proper amount of collateral, if you will, so that in case there is spills, in case we have these issues which have proven these things have happened, taxpayers aren't footing the bill. It's just another form of a bailout for a company who wants to make millions and billions of dollars of profits on this pipeline, to not at least be able to give us some assurances that in the event of a spill, in the event of something, you know, we could have this cleaned up without taxpayers having to reach into their dollar or into their wallets and bail out another company. That's not free market principles. That's just another situation where we can talk about subsidies and these people being favored over others. That can all be handled when we get in there with real independence. That's what's going to change the face of American politics going forward. You're seeing it in the Senate. It's going to start happening in the House. It's going to begin with me. We're going to change the whole game.
Thank you. Joe, what are your thoughts on the XL pipeline?
Yes, I definitely think it's a way we should be going. We take a look at the trains coming through Sartell, coming through St. Cloud. How many trains can we bear? And is it only going to get worse? Is the pipeline the more efficient way to move oil? Yes, it is. Are we going to just put it through? No, we're not. The reason it's taking time is because we've got to do it right. And so let's do it right. And let's make sure that we also are doing it with American labor, American steel, American products, because that's going to help our economy grow as well. But you don't just say we're going to put a pipeline in and draw a line through the map and say this is where it's going to go. It's got to be done in an environmentally secure way, environmentally prudent way, so that we do what's best. And again, it's going to help alleviate those trains that are on the tracks here that is just horrendous. And that we can't even get grain to market. We can't get goods to market because we got so much oil on those rails. Not to mention the safety factor as well. So yes, we can move that oil through the pipeline. But a bigger question is what I'd like to see is where are we going with this oil? We've got this fracking sands up in North Dakota, that fracking oil that we're getting out of the ground. We have the tar sands of Canada. These huge deposits. Where do we really want to go with that in the future? Okay, and what are we going to actually do? Is that the way we want to go? Do we want to go back to oil, to petroleum products, or do we want to move away from them, go into solar, go into wind, go into other alternative energies? And as we move this oil, who's going to benefit? Is the American public going to benefit it, or is it going to be multinational corporations? Who's actually benefiting as we take a look at how it impacts the environment and how it impacts the air? Something we need to look at.
Thank you. And Tom?
Yes, I believe we should be building the Keystone Pipeline. Yes, I believe we should be building the Sandpiper Line. It's interesting that I think it was 1972, the Clean Water Act, if I'm not mistaken, Clean Water, Clean Air. It was policymakers and environmental folks set up these requirements. And I might have missed something, but my understanding is the Keystone Pipeline proposal made it through that, and at the end of a long and arduous process, there were some concerns raised in, I believe, the state of Nebraska. Once you set these things in motion, it's not about just drawing a line and saying we're going to build it. Once you set the requirements and people make major investments and try to comply with those, you don't change the rules at the end of the process. And I find this amazing because we got too many politicians that are doing this. Oh, I like the pipeline. I like the idea. You know, we need to be energy independent. We need to mine more of our own resources, the precious metals up north, the Bakken. We need to allow our resources to go into the world market. We need to do this because it'll bring down the price of energy overall. And frankly, whether it's petroleum, whether it's clean coal, whether it's natural gas, no matter what it is, solar, wind, everything can add to the problem so that we maintain the highest standard of living in the country. And I'd like to leave that for my kids. But the thing that it really gets disturbing when you hear politicians say, I just don't like the route. That's the new code for I'm going to try and stay on the right side of the environmental extremists while still telling people who believe that this country can once again rise to the level of economic robust growth that it should have. We got to have people who are willing to stand up and say, build the pipeline, build it now, whether it's Sandpiper, whether it's Keystone, get it done.
Thank you. And Tom, you'll start with this next
thank you.
question. What would
I
your
was being left out, Teresa.
No, there you go. What would your approach be to controlling costs and eliminating the deficit at the U.S. Postal Service? That came from a member.
Well, it's interesting. That problem is almost too big. You know, it's funny how many people realize that the U.S. Postal Service is actually a privately owned corporation. Most people don't. So I think first you got to look at the way they're operating it, and you let them start to address some of the problems. One of the biggest issues that I've been told is some of the contracts, the labor contracts, the pension benefits, et cetera. Those will need to be addressed, and Congress, to the extent Congress can be involved, should be part of that solution. Where it goes, I mean, it's interesting how our communication has changed over just the last 5 years, the last 10 years, the last 20 years. I was at a chamber meeting the other day, and Tom Weaver over in Anoka, he pulled out his phone, his cell phone, and you remember it's one of those big phones that we used to have in our car. And he said, I'm going to go get the newest flip phone technology today. Well, think about how that has changed the way we do our business in this country. How many people just live off cell phones now? Same thing when it comes to the mail. The mail will be changing as well, and it's up to the U.S. Postal Service and others to figure out where is that going to exist and how does it make sure that it's self-sustaining instead of constantly running up that down escalator that seems to be going faster and faster.
Thank you.
So, like
John.
Tom said, oh, I'm sorry.
Good. No, that's fine.
This has recently been turned into a private company. So, how much of this is my responsibility? I don't think much. I think that what he brought up there with technology, looking forward, I think this is the biggest thing that separates me from other candidates, right? I am very much the technology candidate. One of my 5 big planks is talking about net neutrality, talking about issues surrounding the internet, talking about securing our networks as a big thing in national security. That's where you'll see the post office moving is toward online distribution of mail, basically, going forward. Now, obviously, there's always going to be people who like to write letters or, send a carrier pigeon, whatever. That's fine. But going forward, we just need to make sure we're on top of these things technologically. That's about all I can say on that.
Thank you. And Joe.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by the question. Yes, the Postal Service is obviously changing. The demand for catalogs, for newspapers, magazines, it's all disappearing. So the load is changing for what they're carrying. Information, boy, I tell you, when I was in Europe, I'd write a letter and put it in the mail, and it'd take 10 days to get here to Minnesota, and 10 days to get back, and it'd be 3 weeks before you'd get an answer, a response to what you actually had asked. Well, now you can get that in less than probably 3 seconds. It's just amazing, again, how the world is changing, and we need to change along with it. The innovation as far as processing mail, that too. But I will tell you, the mail service has been a part of our heritage. As I go around and I meet people, especially talking to workers, retired workers, they're proud of the work that they did with the U.S. Post Office and the time they served. And it's always been under a bit of stress about how those folks have done and the dollars that we're spending. But actually, think about what they've done since the time of Ben Franklin. Actually applaud them for the work that they've done. And they don't want to lose those pensions. They want to make sure that they have those dollars that they've been promised through that. And they ask to make sure that those pensions don't disappear. But as far as where we're going ahead with this, again, innovation and technology, it's going to move us forward. But I always think we're probably going to have that handwritten letter that's going to be passed throughout house to house or person to person.
Thank you. Okay, this also came from a member, and Joe, you'll start with this one.
Yeah.
Should the federal government decriminalize marijuana or let the states sort it out?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, let's take a look at that. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion between communities as far as what they want to do with that, states what they want to do with that. But in Sartell, I've listened to my school people, my principals, my superintendent. I've listened to my police chief. And no, they don't want to recreationalize marijuana. They want to keep it out of schools. They want to keep it out of the recreational hands for that. But is there a municipal use for it? Absolutely. And I'll give you firsthand evidence of that. When my daughter had leukemia, she was suffering. And she had had the chemo and radiation, very painful to her. We couldn't find a medication that was going to work for her. And so one of the doctors said, well, we do have this other one. It's a derivative from marijuana. And we tried it and it worked. She got the relief she needed. So is there a place for marijuana? Absolutely. If it can be controlled and used as a substance to improve people's pain, whether it be bone cancer or something else that's very severe, or another ailment that a person has, what makes it any different from any other drug? But to make it a recreational drug so that people can just use it for that purpose, I go back to my police, I go back to my school people, and they're telling me no, they don't want to see that.
Thank you. Tom?
I've always been at a state level, and I think your question was very direct. It was, whoever wrote it said, is it a federal issue? Should the states sort it out and decriminalize it? Well, first off, from my perspective, when I was in the state legislature, I always opposed it. I don't agree with it, and I don't think that the medicinal issue is exactly what the legislators say. They should either legalize it or not, but it's a state issue. We're running for Congress. At the congressional level, I think the federal government needs to leave this to the states and let the states sort it out.
Thank you. John?
Well, at the federal level, you could definitely get it off of Schedule 1. That would be one start in, allowing people to actually be able to research this and find out all the true medicinal properties of it. Now, anytime a young guy gets up here and talks about marijuana, you're going to get the eye rolls. Here we go. A bunch of self-indulgent hedonists just want to get stoned. That is not the case here. This is something that can raise revenue, save us money, and secure America as well. Like I just said, talking about the border, Joe talks about how, hey, the cops, they don't want it legalized. Why is that? That's because it's profitable. It's profitable for police and the prison lobby to get in there and to fill these cells. We stack up, 10 deep of marijuana smokers in a cell, and we're letting go of sex offenders. Happens all the time. You read it in the paper. This is what's happening. We incarcerate more people in this country than anywhere else in the world, more than China. And we don't do anything more than China. Now, also, in regards to this issue, I do think that everyone overlooks the hemp part of this issue. George Washington grew hemp. Hemp is not something that gets you, it has no psychoactive properties. It is simply an industrial product. It is biodiesel, biofuels, like I said, just an incredible textile product that we could open up brand new, by just simply letting hemp come through. We could open up brand new industries in America. We could grow it right here in the 6th District. Once again, it's not a drug. But for those of you who are worried about the children, I have news for you. Drug dealers don't card. And if you look in Colorado, where they have legalized, drug use is down amongst the youth. The first way to make something cool for kids to do is to prohibit it. Make it banned. Now it's cool. Now we're going to do it. We need to get our hands around this thing and regulate it. We are not very progressive on this issue at all. We are one of the last Western nations to look at drug reform policy, and it would be a big issue for me.
Okay, we're ready for closing comments. We're going to start with Tom Emmer, and I'd like you all to comment on why are you the best person to be elected as our congressional leader for the next 2 years as you finish up with your closing comments. So you'll have 2 minutes. Tom?
Thank you. Again, my name's Tom Emmer, and I'm running for Congress in Minnesota's 6th Congressional District. I want to thank the Rotary, I want to thank Teresa and everybody who's here today for taking the time to care enough to show up. And although somebody said to me, what's happening today? I think there's a certain representative at the front table that said, I didn't know anything was happening today. Why is the table up there? What's going on? This is where it happens. You get to find out who we are personally. You get to listen to us. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I want to work for you. I would like to be your representative in Washington. It's been an interesting journey for me, and I believe that it's brought me to this point because in the next 10 years, we are going to see more opportunity for change in this country, especially within Congress and our state legislatures, than perhaps at any time during my lifetime, mine, and maybe some others.
Going triple digits.
Think about this. McConnell, Boehner, Reid, Pelosi, McCain, they're all going to be leaving, folks. They're all going to be retiring, or they will be voted out by the people that they work for. And it'll happen within the next 2, 4, 6, 8 years. The other thing that's going to happen is the bureaucracies, the agencies of government, the average age is in the mid-50s of upper management. That's going to be turning over as well. We're already seeing it at the state level. It's a great opportunity for change. I'd like to be a representative that goes and works for you by building relationships and actually being able to get things done when you call. My name's Tom Emmer. Please vote on November 4th, and I would really appreciate your vote. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. John?
Tom's going to have a hard time working for you. So's Joe. Because so long as we have the corrupt system of legalized bribery that is in place in government right now, we're not going to be able to get anything done. That's the reality, and it's the thing nobody addresses. Now, I have felt like for a long time that my vote is wasted, and I know a lot of people in my generation feel that way. It just doesn't matter. There's so much apathy out there about government right now. Voting numbers are so very down. Now, the reason for that, most people speculate, is because of uninformed voters. I'm not buying it. I actually think it's the exact opposite. It's because we're informed that you don't see a lot of action in the polls, because it doesn't matter whether Tom gets elected or whether Joe gets elected. That wouldn't change a thing. They'll both go to the back of the line of their respective parties and work their way up through just like anyone else, but nothing very meaningful at all will change in government. If you want your voice to matter, if you want your vote to matter, consider me. Please, consider me. As your independent congressman, like I said, I'll be able to put you first in line for every congressional decision. Also, and this is another part that, I don't really touch on, but none of the promises that are made up here by these two are enforceable. What I am offering you is a first-of-its-kind legally binding contract. It's not a gimmick. George W. Bush's former chief ethics counsel doesn't put his name on gimmicks. This is real. We can change the face of American politics, and all I need is a little bit of help from you. So when you get in that booth, remember on the 4th of November, it doesn't matter how much money they've spent. None of this matters. It's just you and a pencil. And we are a centimeter away from changing the face of American politics. All it takes is a little bit of belief. And I think you need some hopeless optimism, Mr. Fitzsimmons, to do these things. I think that's what's going to be required. So, if you really want to make a statement, if you really want your voice to matter, give it to the guy who can guarantee you he's only going to work for you. I'm John Denney. I'm the Independence Party candidate, and I'm a centimeter away from changing the face of American politics.
Thank you. Joe Perske, you get the final comments today.
I've been waiting for this question because I wanted to tell you what I'm all about, and I want to speak from the heart because this election has been flying under the radar. We can do better because Congress isn't coming together to solve the problems we're facing as a nation, and the gridlock is killing us. The government shutdown, the sequestration, the fiscal cliffs are all signs of a dysfunctional Congress. And Michele Bachmann has not done anything to get us out of that gridlock, and I'm afraid my opponent, Tom Emmer, is just going to be more of the same. In fact, I'm in this race because of Tom. Had it been a moderate Republican, I wouldn't be here. I would be teaching school, in Sartell. I would be still seeing be myself as being the mayor of Sartell, but we've got to change. Now, this is difficult for me to say because I've always been taught to be a nice, polite person. But shouldn't we believe that a person's future performance should be based on what the person has done in the past? And I think we need to look at Tom's past. Tom has been very dividing, very divisive, even with his own party. In the legislature, he's been bullying, threatening, not just with Democrats, but again, with his own party. He has a record of being uncooperative, even shouting across the aisles, and even at sometimes being self-serving when it came down to some legislation to erase some of the DWI arrests that he'd had. We need to change that. I'm running because we have many challenges facing this nation, and these are not Democratic or Republican problems. These are changes that need to happen because we've got to put those polarizing politics aside. In my 10 years as mayor and on the council, I've always been about people, and my whole life has been about people. Whether it's being a teacher, being a coach, being a dad, being the mayor, or being the husband of that woman over here. I'm going to hopefully go to Washington and be elected and represent you and do what's right for you, the people of Minnesota and the people of this great nation. Some of you folks know that I've run 100 marathons in my life. I've run 90,000 miles. I have that passion in me, and I've had it in this campaign, and I will take that passion with me to Washington and serve you. I'm very much approachable. It's the number one thing on my sheet. Vote for Joe Perske. You'll have my trust. I trust you. Thank you.
Tom, did you want a 1-minute rebuttal to that?
No.
Okay.
Thank you for having me today.
Okay, I want to thank all of our participants and the St. Cloud Rotary Club for participating with this 6th Congressional Candidates Debate. Thank you all for being here, and in just a couple of weeks we'll have the opportunity to pick which centimeter we're falling in. So